Hello, good afternoon. Uh, Today I'm going to show you how to give your dated house a little bit more modern look. As you see here, I have two angle iron columns that were decorative, and this house is built in 1950s, so not quite as desired on today's houses. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these decorative columns and I'm going to box them in with wood and do some crown molding or trim work and what have you, so make them look more modern. So here we go. Okay, first and foremost, I've got to cut off this extra trim piece here, so I'm doing that with a Makita grinder, one of my favorite tools, and just grinding that nice and flush there. Okay, so I have ground off both sides, and it doesn't have to be perfect because this is going to be behind wood. Okay, now I've taken a sheet of plywood and I've cut it down to planks that are 9.5 inches wide by 78.5 inches tall, which is the perfect width and height of my column. So they're going to overlay over the top of my column. I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and grind the paint off the front surface of the older column, and then epoxy glue this panel to the old steel column using clamps from probably Harbor Freight. I'm going to put one of these panels on both sides, so there'll be a front and rear panel, and then we'll build up the sides and start doing the decorative work as well. But this is going to be the inner structure. So there's 4 panels that have been cut using a chop saw. You don't have to use a chop saw, but I have one, so I'm using it. You can pretty much do everything with simple hand tools, but since I have the chop saw, I'm using the chop saw. Okay, I went ahead and grinded off the paint perfectly, but plenty good enough to bond the wood to the metal, and I'm going to use Gorilla Glue. Okay, so now I've clamped my wood on. I used ratchet clamps. I don't usually like ratchet clamps. I like C-clamps because you can keep twisting them till they're tight. My experiences with ratchet clamps is you can ratchet them into the location, or but then getting the additional clamping force on them is kind of difficult. They kind of stop. So, but that's all they had at Harbor Freight, so that's what I got. Okay, so ground off the paint there. So I'm ready to glue on my inner piece. I got smart and used my undershirt as a filter, so that's good. And I'm gonna have to take the top of the board and notch it a little bit because these bolts, which is not a big deal because this is going to be covered with the outside trim work. Okay, this is day number 4. I'm not in a hurry to finish the project simply because I'm just doing it right, taking my time, although I could have done it quicker. So I've nailed, or I've glued on the last inner board on this side, and the other pillar has inner boards and outer boards, as you've already seen. And now I'm going to sand down the excess glue between the two, and then I'm going to put decorative boards on the outside and then a board on the side, and you'll see from there. So I'm just going to sand this with the DA, or yeah, random orbital, probably electric one, although I have air too. Okay, we're at like day number 4, I think. Anyway, have these long beams or planks of wood here. I'm going to cut them down. That's going to be around the base. I also have these planks, which is going to, I'm going to build up the structure. They're going to go like this, and then we'll build it up and make it architecturally beautiful. Okay, I put on my front 2 boards. I want to put 2 in the rear as well. And you can see as I'm using a scrap of wood here, and I'm making sure that I'm overlapping the wood perfectly, because it's going to get framed in all the way down. There's going to be a thin strip of wood that goes in, so essentially it's boxing it in. This is like a C-clamp of wood. So, okay, we are completely framed in. There's going to be more of a build-up around the bottom, so I had to box that in. I'll box that in at the top too. Okay, now you can see how I'm boxing in the bottom with a larger piece of wood to give it more definition. And this is a long plank, and basically I'm going 1/4 inch out on either side. This is what the finished product looks like. I boxed it all the way in. And then I went ahead and cut some little pieces to just go in the top there, and I'll silicone that in just so there's no excess water that can go in. Okay, everything is framed and boxed in. Start at the bottom, work our way up, boxed in at the top. Okay, now I'm putting on molding on the base. Cut it out of 45. You want to make sure it's lined up perfectly with the corner. And what I do is, patience is key here. I cut my pieces too long, and then I take off little slivers so then I can make it exact to the corner. Always better to cut off a little at a time than cut off too much and then have to put a ton of putty in there. So we're going to trim out that piece, and then we're going to put it on with our nail it on. Okay, I have all the beams puttied up, so we're going to go ahead and let all the putty dry, and then we will sand it up next. Okay, I've siliconed all the cracks with caulk. After caulk dries, if it's a little bit for lack of a better term, boogery. If it's on wood, you can slightly sand it to get rid of all the little imperfections in the caulk. So, and I've also taken the liberty to prime the areas where I have knots with as in primer, so that way they don't bleed through after I'm done painting. So I'm about to put a coat of oil-based paint on the columns here shortly. I've also caulked the bottom where it meets the concrete so no water can get underneath, and that's paintable caulked as well. I used clear because it's obviously against the ground. Okay, we're into about 2 coats of paint and they're looking pretty good. See the detail on the bottom, looks pretty good. Zoom in there, see how that came out. Came out all the way to the top. I'm still going to put a little cap on the top there to get rid of that. A lot of times there's a big cap on the top, a lot more architectural detail, but because my eave hangs so low, it's kind of a waste to do because you can't really see it from the street. So it's looking pretty good. Also going to point out my faults. I pulled the stupid over here and put paper on the bottom from painting around it, and then the wind came up and blew onto the column, so I'll have to let that dry, sand it down, and put a new coat of paint on. Not the end of the world, I can redo it. And as you can see here, I'm not doing the bottom edge completely because I've siliconed that edge, clear silicone. I'm going to let that dry for 24 hours. Then I'll come in there and paint the very bottom and blend it, so it'll look perfect. So, but anyway, that's how you do a side call or do a set of columns. Update the look at your house. I'll send you another show another view once I'm completely done with them. So that's that. Okay, we have one completed column. I went ahead and painted that top piece, blended that in, so it looks really good, as you can see. And if my stupid cat would get out of the way, I'll show you the bottom. Painted the bottom, blended it all in. So got a couple pieces of little areas of paint that I got to scrape off the concrete. And that's pretty much it. All done. And pull back, you can see what it looks like. Totally changed the look of the house. Gives it a more traditional ranch feel versus a dated wrought iron 1950s feel, which is the approximate year the house was built. So, hope you had fun watching. Thanks.